Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we are going to be going over a little bit something different this time around. It's going to be an experimental video type because a lot of people they've come to me and they're like said, "Hey Dread, I don't want to play a build per se from you, but I want some knowledge about certain skills because I want to be able to make my own build, right?" Which is completely understandable. Last Epoch's a really nice game which lets you do that, but of course, they need some knowledge. So I'm going to give you guys some knowledge. Now, of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a skill, I'm going to explain all the nodes, explain what they do and how they work and the synergies behind it. I'm going to explain what items synergize with the skills and which other skills synergize with them. Then I'm going to pick a few builds that I've played or I've seen that utilize the skill to its utmost like efficiency or just for some examples, right? Now, of course, if you end up enjoying this kind of video, this kind of like content, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video, subscribing to the channel, and leave a comment down below that you enjoy content like this because interacting with the video is the best way of making sure that I make more videos like this because of the way that the YouTube algorithm works. So, if I end up getting enough support for this kind of video, I will definitely make a few more videos about all the other skills that I know about and have good knowledge about, and we can go from there. But yeah, let's start. So this is Swipe. If you don't know, Swipe is a basic melee attack that is for, of course, Primalist, and it is a very good utility for most Primalist builds, and also has a very large amount of damage potential when you build it correctly, right? So in game, it looks like this. You just make like a little bit of an AoE. Increase area effect increases the area of the size of it. You can also get area of effect as well with the swipe, of course, right? Like right here. And it can be bigger and it hits in a bigger area, right? Now, there's also another mode of it called lightning swipe, where it turns blue as well. It looks very pretty, right? And can be converted to lightning. And that is pretty much the modes of the current swipe, right? So let's talk about the skills more in detail, shall we? So for let's go down the first avenue of how swipe works. This is going to be the quote unquote utility side of swipe, and that is the lower half of swipe, right? So the first thing that you want to be pointed to is aspect of the panther. So if you add a bunch of nodes into this point here, you can get stacks of 5% more damage. This is global 5% more damage. So if you're in Werebear and you proc like a Maelstrom, it'll get them more damage. If you proc like a Maul or you do like an Earthquake wall in Werebear, if you are using just anything, any kind of ailment, any kind of damage over time, any kind of crit hit, anything. Any of that is, of course, just global more damage, which is great. Then the next note here, you get a little bit of global attack and cast speed. Now, this does not scale with the number of stacks, but it's very useful, of course. Then the next note here, what it does is allows you to invest more to get 7 stacks in total for a total of 35% more global damage after you get all your stacks. And it also gives you 2 flat adaptive melee damage per stack, right? So that can be up to 35 flat, which is almost an entire tier 5 affix on a weapon. So this part's very strong. Now, the next node that is related to aspect of the panther, right, is Sabertooths Endurance. The way that this works is it increases the duration of aspect of the panther, which makes it so that you can sustain it much easier if you're utilizing it for utility. So like let's say you're playing a minion build where you're only swiping every so often. This is the node for you because you definitely want, of course, the duration, which makes it last longer. You also get a gigantic amount of health regen. I'm talking like ginormous. I think like 385 health regeneration percentage. This is very strong with certain things. Like, for instance, of course, one of the best things about this specifically, right? If we are to look at builds here and we are to go by, where is it? Beastmaster here, right? Let's scroll down here. I'm trying to find which Beastmaster I was talking about here. It was like a while ago. Here it is. So I made a video about Physical Wolves Beastmaster, right? And in the Planar, or actually Lightning Summon Wolf Beastmaster showcase, right? we're just gonna just talk about this real quick. So ignore the build, but I just want to showcase what I'm talking about here. So if we can go in the description here, pull this up. In this build, what I literally did was I have a bunch of flat health regen on my affixes. Like I have flat health regen here, flat health regen here, and eventually you'd have flat health regen here, right? The reason why this is so good is because if we look at swipe here with Sabertooths Endurance, this gives us all of the percent health regen we would ever want for, of course, our build, for our Beastmaster build, which means that we don't have to waste suffixes for increased health regen. We can just use our suffixes for flat health regen and flat HP. So instead of being 1800 life with like 800 regen, now you're like 2.6k life with like 400 regen, which is ultimately significantly better than, of course, having a bunch of percent health regen affixes. Now, the other thing that it's really good with, we can go into the build planner here, is there's a very specific item here. It is called, where is it? I'm trying to find it here. Vessel of Strife. So Vessel of Strife turns 66% of health regeneration. It applies it to ward, right? If you're building like a ward kind of like Primalist setup, this is very, very strong for it because not only do you get a bunch of more damage, right? You also gain a very large portion of sustain for utilizing swipe. So that's something to keep in mind. Health regen is very strong in this game when you apply it properly. And of course, the next node is, of course, Twin Fangs. This gives you a very large amount of crit multi while dual wielding. You can get 7 stacks of 12% in the beginning, which is about 98% crit multi, and then that is doubled while dual wielding. That is a total of almost 200% crit multi while dual wielding. This is insane. This is an insane amount of crit multi, especially if you're playing like, let's say, like an Earthquake Werebear, and or even 72% crit multi at that point is really strong for like your Earthquake Werebear. Or if you're playing like a swipe build that like wants more global crit damage, it's like a fizz crit like swipe setup, right? There is a very large amount of applications for this node. And of course, you can also play like a bleed or poison Beastmaster, right? You can play a bleed or poison Beastmaster, utilize that node, right? Not just Beastmaster, but like Primalist in general. You can play bleed or poison, utilize that node, use the dual wielding, and then convert that into physical or poison penetration as well. This can give you a massive, I think, like 100% penetration with ailments, which makes, and of course, you get the global damage with the swipe, which makes swipe really good for like ailment builds as well. So, this whole entire part of the tree is really strong and really good. Now let's talk about the next part of the utility tree. We have Blood Beast here. Blood Beast is just bleed chance. Swipe bleed itself isn't really that good of a build because it doesn't have any ailment effectiveness essentially for itself. It doesn't like hit multiple times or anything like that. So if anything, this is probably just for utility for like summon bear or something, right? Then of course we got physical shred chance, which is actually useful because odds are you're going to be playing like an Earthquake Werebear, and you don't have access to things like, of course, armor shred on the suffix of your weapon. Although you are playing like yeah, actually, you are playing with the Earthquake Werebear weapon, so you have armor shred. But yeah, like this global armor shred's great for a lot of different builds. And then, of course, we have duality in nature. The way this works is if you are transformed, you gain HP, but if you're not transformed, you gain mana. This is really good for sustaining things like, for instance, you're playing like Earthquake Werebear. I mean, not Earthquake Werebear. I mean, Earthquake like Beastmaster or Earthquake like Shaman. You can use this to sustain the mana on, of course, Earthquake, right? You can use this to sustain the mana on a lot of different things, but mainly it's just a way of sustaining mana very easy, right? Which is great. Like, this is a wonderful node. And now let's talk about the right here, the upper right. So we have Stormclaw. So Stormclaw, it just makes it so every 3 seconds you gain 30% more damage. And of course, you're converting all your base damage to lightning. This node's kind of worthless in my opinion. It's kind of cool, but you kind of want to be either one or the other. You don't want to be like kind of swapping in between lightning and not, right? You want to be doing either all lightning or none lightning, which is great because we can talk about the next node here, Umjal's Guidance, which then converts the percentage base of the physical damage that you're getting when you're, of course, utilizing weapons, right, with adaptive. It's turning parts of that into lightning. And then if you have 5 points, it completely converts it to lightning and removes the physical tag. Now, this, of course, turns this to lightning tag instead, so you can use elemental stuff, you can use crystal swords, stuff like that. But maybe in the future there might be a reason to have physical and lightning tags on your swipe, but as of right now, it's either you go physical or you go lightning, right? Then you have the 3 points here, Wrath of the Wild. You have the lightning damage per shock, which is really good on like a crit lightning swipe setup for lightning. And of course, there's cold damage per chill. This is an interesting amount of damage on it. So there is like a build technically where you can use I think it's like the Shattered Lance set, which gives you like a bunch of melee percent cold damage whenever you stack a bunch of health regen, and that works really well. Sabertooths Endurance. So this node works pretty good with that. It gives you more cold damage versus chilled, which gives you a decent amount of damage, but it's not too supported in this tree. And of course, the end all be all, the Storm Scour. This is really strong for any Primalist that is trying to play with lightning crit swipe. It allows you to stack attunement for a bunch of more damage, which is insane. Because if you have 100 attunement, that's 200% penetration, which means your swipe is going to be hitting like a truck, which is great. Now, that's pretty much it for the lightning swipe setup, right? You can also do cold if you want to. Now, up here as well, we have Avatar of Stone. Now, when you use swipe and hit at least one enemy, all your totems gain +1 melee damage and +1 spell damage. This buff stacks and lasts until your totem expires. There is a way where you can summon a bunch of like thorn totems or something like that, and then attack a bunch of things, and then get a large amount of flat damage. This is very strong while leveling. If you are leveling a build like Thorn Totem, you can use Swipe in this node to give your Thorn Totems a very large amount of flat spell damage, which then, of course, can scale them into killing bosses much quicker. That's actually one of the preferred methods. Is what you do is you simply rush to gain Avatar of Stone, and then, of course, you grab Thorn Totem, and then you grab Titan's Bane, right? Once you grab Titan's Bane, it will only fire a single projectile, and then what you do is you build into Avatar's Storm to make this deal even more flat damage, right? So you can actually kill single targets very quickly with this build, right? This has some other applications. So the only other two melee totems we have is access to right now is upheaval totems, which are really bad because they have like a 4-second duration. So you wouldn't be getting that many stacks for that build. Or you have, of course, the claw totems themselves, which aren't really useful, sadly, due to the fact that is on kill with swipe. It's not on hit of boss or on kill. So it means like you can never you kind of utilize it, to be honest. I think that it should just be on hit, chance to summon Claw Totem on hit, right? That would make this node much more usable, but as of right now, Claw Totems are kind of useless. Although they are cool and they scale with the swipe tree, it's just summoning Claw Totems just doesn't work right now, sadly. And that's pretty much it for the upper half totem support. Now over here, we grab Way of the Hunt. Way of the Hunt is a lot of leech, a lot of free leech for you, makes up for the fact that you're playing a melee build, and it's really good at keeping your health sustained when you're playing like a lightning swipe Beastmaster or a lightning swipe Werebear, where you have like 3 to 4k HP, and you need to restore that very quickly, which is very strong, right? Now, the next node is just a bunch of area. This makes it so your swipe can hit multiple targets much easier, and it makes it so you can like get a you can hit enemies easier for your utility stuff, or of course get more stacks of Aspect of the Panther faster. Then, of course, we have a 14% coal. So, on average, most good coals are around 15%. So, this is 1% off, and it's on a very good utility skill. So, this coal is on top of the same as, like, you have the totem support here, the mana, the global stat buffs, stuff like that. So, having coal on top of that is really, really good. If you don't know, it's like really good. Then the node after it, you get 60% more damage versus slowed. This is one of the main nodes that makes swipe crit viable, because getting 60% more damage for 3 points is a very large amount of damage, and it's very easy to make sure the enemies are slowed. Now, that's going to be it for the damage swipe setup. Now, after this is going to be even more utility, and that's going to be Claws of the Bear. Now, this is going to give you more damage with swipe. Now, I want to let you know there is a node inside. Where is it? As it currently stands, there is a node inside Summon Bear that gives him the swipe. So, for instance, he uses your tree for swipe, right? So this node, it says 85% more damage, but it makes the cooldown to 2 seconds. And of course, his swipe actually has a cooldown too. But his swipe cooldown overrides the extra cooldown from Claws of the Bear. That means that your bear, your summoned bear, gets the 85% more damage without the downside of losing the cooldown. So that's just a nice little trick that I learned recently. But yeah, essentially this makes it so you can deal a lot more damage with your swipe, but it's not really used for that. It's used for the nodes afterwards. So the next node, of course, is Primal Resonance, which makes it so that whenever you hit a nearby enemy, you will cast a companion ability on hit. It will not put your current companion ability on cooldown. It will just simply cast an extra copy of that companion ability. So, like for instance, if you have a summon raptor, it will make him enrage. If you summon a Sabertooth, it will make him, of course, do the flurry swipes. If you do a crow, it will do a crow storm, which is very useful because this makes crow storm Beastmaster or whatever you want to do, makes crow storm very, very good. It makes it deal a very large amount of damage because you can spam it, because normally it has a very long cooldown. So being able to spam uh, the cooldown abilities of your companions is very good. There's also a build where you play a Summon Scorpion and you just spam this as much as possible for your clear, because the Scorpion makes like a poison nova and it's very effective at clearing monoliths and stuff like that. And this is the main reason why. Another thing that's really cool with this node is it makes it so that the nearest companion near you is restored to 100% HP every single time you use it. This makes it so that you don't need sustain on your companion, on your solo companion. They don't need leech. They don't need regen. They don't need anything. As long as you're swiping things, they will stay at topped off, which means you can just invest less into minion health regen or leech and more into, of course, just minion health, and make it so that he can't get one tapped. Because as long as he's not getting one tapped, odds are he's not going to die thanks to Primal Resonance. Now, the last thing that I failed to mention on purpose is, of course, Spirit Wolves. Spirit Wolves is by far one of the strongest nodes in the entire game, but essentially the way that this works is if you have a bunch of wolves or, of course, squirrels summoned, whenever you hit with swipe, it will cause a projectile to be shot out from, of course, your wolf or squirrel. And this can pierce enemies. It's not a projectile, but it can pierce enemies, and it does basic attack damage based on the wolf's damage, right? This is very good because let's say you have 5 wolves, right? And you have a 45% chance. This means that when you have attack speed, that attack speed is effectively adding extra attacks to your wolves based on your attack speed. The faster you attack, the more spirit wolves you get, right? Which, of course, is very, very good. And this is also very synergistic with nodes like in Beastmaster here, where you have like Viper Fangs, where you get increased melee attack speed for yourself, but you also get increased companion melee attack speed. So not only is your companion getting a bunch of attack speed, but you're also getting a bunch of attack speed, which then scales your wolf's damage even further, which makes it so you can do stuff also as well. Like, of course, Beastmaster here with Aspect of the Shark, you can make it apply to yourself and your allies, which gives you attack speed, which then, of course, gives them attack speed, which then, of course, gives them even more attack speed because your attack speed makes them attack technically faster thanks to Spirit Wolves. So this is by far one of the strongest nodes in the entire game, and it's really cool, and I hope that they don't touch it because I think it's cool. It elevates your clear on Summon Wolf significantly so. Without this, Summon Wolves would have like meh clear, but with this, they have amazing clear. What you do is you just simply grab, like, you grab Warcry here, right? And you grab the pull, you pull enemies in, you swipe them, all the Spirit Wolves proc and shotgun the enemies, and they all die. And that's a pack dead. And it is very, very good. This is also very good for single target because not only do you get extra hits for, of course, bleeds, you get extra hits for shreds and stuff like that. So you can hit shred cap and stuff like that. So all in all, wild calling in Spirit Wolves is very strong. And you have like the small Spirit Wolf node here, Loop Bind Attunement, where you can, of course, do it on the cooldown, but not many people utilize this because this is much better because, like I said, it scales with your attack speed. Well, this scales with your cooldown. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Swipe. That's pretty much it for items that synergize with swipe. Like I said, like Vessel and stuff like that. You also have, of course, skills that synergize with swipe, like of course Thorn Totem. You have like Summon Bear that synergizes with it a bunch. Warcry, like I said, with Spirit of Wild Calling. And that's pretty much it for swipe. Yeah. With all that being said, this has been Dread. Off to go do something else. Bye.